verifying a step that we have taken perhaps with Pakistan. Vinodji, welcome to the studio. If you could just continue this further. But we were talking about the fact, the kind of credibility or the lack of credibility attached to Nawaz Sharif, what he says in terms of containing his own military issues back home, and when today he talks about setting up a joint mechanism to control transgression on LOC.
No, may I say one thing very
Sure.
respectfully, that I don't think that we should be talking about a head of government or a head of state with whom we are engaging in terms of his credibility, a lack of it, whether he has it. He has a credibility. He's just been elected as Prime Minister of Pakistan, and we have to engage with him. We have no other option for another 5 years. So Nawaz Sharif is for real in Pakistan. Now what we have to assess and trust and verify is his equations with the army. Army is still awaiting a change of leadership in November, and there's going to also be a change of the leadership in the Supreme Court of Pakistan. Now these are all elements which we have to factor in while we plan our strategy for engaging with Pakistan. But in my very humble view, I think that we must impress upon Mr. Nawaz Sharif that though he talks about picking up the threads from where they were left in 1999, that he should factor in the home, because you cannot just simply abandon what happened between 1999 and 2007 when the decline of Musharraf actually began. So there are many creative ideas. There was actually a lot of out-of-box thinking, and one amongst them was that we must move on Kashmir from new borders to no borders. Now that was, I think, a fundamental shift to which the Pakistani government appeared to be agreeing. And even it was during that period that Pakistan Muslim League Qaid, which fancies itself as a great torch bearer of the Pakistan movement, also said, well, let's forget about United Nations resolutions and let's resolve this bilaterally as per the new agreement and as per the new thinking.
Right. So new borders to no borders, but the fact of the matter is that still today, if we talk about Jammu and Kashmir and the IB, unprovoked firing continues.
No borders to Jammu hoga. No borders will happen only when we are able to ensure calm on the line of control and along the international borders, and for that 2004, as I said, 2004, and then whatever has happened consequent to that, let us pick up the good points that were made.
Correspondent Mayank, special correspondent Mayank Agarwal, who joins us from New York. Mayank, now put everything in perspective, especially expectations attached to this meeting which is currently underway, specifically when PM Manmohan Singh talks tough on terror and comes too hard on Pakistan that they have to dismantle terror infrastructure. They have no choice emanating from their soil.
Yes, Sakal, right now the meeting is going on and may continue for another 10.
Could there be anything more stupid than...
Welcome back, and let's continue our discussion. Let me quickly once again introduce our guest in the studio right now. We have political editor of Hindustan Times, Vinod Sharma ji, with us, and also former Foreign Secretary Shri Mujkund Dubey. Now, sir, it's official. They are, in fact, PM has actually talked tough on terror with Nawaz Sharif. What do we expect from Sharif?
Well, the first thing is that the word tough is loaded.
Yes.
And there is no need to use this term because it blurs the objective.
Yeah.
It's not for the first time that in Indo-Pakistan talk at any level the question of terror has been raised, because it is an issue which has lingered, and so long as this issue lingers, India is bound to have this as an important item on the agenda of talks with Pakistan. So it's just normal, expected thing that Prime Minister has done. But the most significant is, as I had mentioned earlier, that if the multi-purpose dialogue gets going, and if on individual issues we are able to make progress, the level of expectation and extent to which the parties can give and take will very much be determined by what Pakistan does with regard to unfolding this infrastructure of terrorism initiative.
But Vinodji, perhaps why we are using tough, or certain sections of media using tough, Indian PM talking tough on terror. First, because of the rocky start it had. We talked about the twin terror attack. Then the expectations which were attached to Havana talks in 2006, where we delinked terror and talks. Then what happened in Sharm el-Sheikh, followed by Thimphu summit, SAARC summit, and a lot of water has passed under the bridge after that. You said 2004 onwards you have to pick the threads from there. But what has really happened?
I didn't say that we have to pick the threads from 2000. He left with Mr. Vajpayee in 1999. What I am saying is that there was a crucial agreement between Vajpayee and Musharraf in 2004 relating to terrorism, which is very, very relevant today. And it was consequent to that agreement that there was a robust ceasefire for some years along the line of control. And this robust ceasefire, which I presume lasted,
Pakistan has moved ahead as far as their initial reluctance was concerned.
But at the same time, we have to keep on underscoring terror, terror, terror. We cannot do business with you until terror is exported. We can't export electricity to Pakistan if they are exporting terror to us. It cannot work that way. We have to tell Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif that, listen, you talk it out with the army leadership, and your army leadership was very much with us in 2000, with the 2004 accord, because it was signed by an army chief. So the question is that they must come to a determination whether terrorism as an instrument of state policy has paid them dividends, or has brought them to a brink where they may collapse. Their economy may collapse.
Right, perhaps Dr. Manmohan Singh has sent an unequivocal message that back home there is certainly a public opinion that Pakistan has to put an end, a bigger end to the terror that is emanating from their soil. We of course are talking to them. At this note, we're going to take a very short break. We'll continue this discussion further. We're keeping an eye right now on the much awaited and anticipated meeting between the Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and Indian Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, which is underway right now in New York. We have with us in the studio Hindustan Times political editor Vinod Sharma and former Foreign Secretary Mushkun Dubey with us. Don't go away. We'll be back. Welcome back, and let's continue discussion now. Dubeyji, let's now look at it in terms of moving ahead from here, and the elements this time around India, besides terror, must have brought on table. Of course, we'll get to hear from the foreign secretaries of both the nation, both sides. It will get official. But elements besides this that India must have brought on table for its own interest, for the national interest. And we've been told that the meeting between Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and Manmohan Singh is over. Yes.
Well, I think, the agenda for the talks between India and Pakistan are very well known. And it is the issue is of the revival of the agenda and revival of serious talks on this agenda, rather than either of the countries putting fresh items on the agenda. Of course, there will be difference in emphasis that we put on one or the other. I mean, terror is on the agenda, and this is something which affects us, and we would raise it, and we would like tangible progress to be made.
The recently concluded meeting between Manmohan Singh and Nawaz Sharif as useful, constructive and fix what we have right now to move forward, quote unquote. And also he said in terms of describing the takeaway, both sides have agreed to evolve a common understanding to move forward. And this meeting has certainly picked up two major issues. Final comments from our guest, Vinodji. Precondition for forward movement, both sides agreed to have to set up a DGMO to restore peace at the border.
Precondition. It's something on which they have agreed.
They have agreed, and
they think that this is a necessary must.
And this will happen
if we have to move forward on other issues, because you have to quieten down the problems that you have along the LOC, because they are vitiating the atmosphere. They are shrinking the support for peace in at least in India. And I think that the realization alone on the part of Pakistan that this is an issue that needs immediate addressing is itself a glacial forward movement. I wouldn't call it a major leap ahead.
And on terror front, sir? our Prime Minister, in fact, making it very clear that the perpetrators of 2008 Mumbai terror attack need to be booked, to which Pakistan has said that the Judicial Commission is just back after completing investigation. So now we expect something concrete there?
Well, I mean, that will very much happen on the course of the talks in future. And I don't think that one can expect anything in the nature of unilateral measures in this regard, because this is too complex a problem. And Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif has to contend with a variety of factors. And his position has been, and there is some element of credibility in that position, is that it has to be looked at along with the other problems facing the two countries.
Okay, but what does it really mean, just to conclude this part of the discussion, I'm quoting NSA, broader dialogue stage has not come yet, right?
This is not, this meeting does not qualify to be called a summit. It was that the two Prime Ministers had an opportunity to meet and they met. And as these NSA pointed out, that forward roadmap and other nuts and bolts, this is in a meeting of 1 hour. You see, in these interactions, consequent to these interactions, the bureaucracy is given instructions and broad political directions, and then they prepare ground on the doables, which are possible. And I think that is what is going to happen, foremost amongst them being an interaction between the two DGMOs to prevent any further escalation of tensions on the border and to ensure that we can, if at all.
So what's going to be your tomorrow's headline? Do you think, in the sense, we have made at least first step in terms of bridging the trust deficit? Very briefly.
You see, the two Prime Ministers, I mean, this is the first meeting between Nawaz Sharif and Manmohan Singh. And this meeting, they've agreed that there is a problem on the border, and that alone is good enough for me. So long as they agree that there is a problem on the border, and both are agreeing, and they are also agreeing that there is a need for a mechanism to sort that problem out, so that we can move forward on other issues, and that there has to be some action taken by way of containing terror, export of terror to India. I think that given the kind of very jerry-built relationship that we have between our two countries, this is a fair enough result.
All right, quickly going across once again to New York, special correspondent Mayank Agarwal joins us live. In fact, Mayank, you were there in the press briefing. Broadly, how would you describe the takeaway? Certainly of all the 15 to 20 questions that NSA addressed, the question of terror and the question of dismantling terror on Pakistan soil, and also the question of containing ceasefire violations across the border has been hugely taken up by both sides, isn't it? All right, it seems that we're not able to get through Mayank Agarwal, and let me have a final word from Dubiji. How would you now describe, the meeting is over, we've heard NSA, we've discussed various issues. Finally, where both nations stand today?
Now, I will repeat that it is very important that this meeting took place in spite of the tremendous pressure mounted on our Prime Minister not to have this meeting. Second thing is that the two countries have reiterated their desire to move forward. The third thing is that they have agreed that they start moving in another direction.
Right.
Minded